My brother boasted at the will, "Dad left me the company and house. She gets the junk," everyone laughed. But when the lawyer spoke, the business wasn't his to give. It was always registered under his daughter's name. The room went dead silent, except for my laughter. I'm 32 years old, and for the last decade, I've been the backbone of our family's construction company, Timber Brewing. While Sebastian was off partying through college or finding himself on daddy's dime in places like Thailand and Miami, I was pulling 80-hour weeks, managing contracts, sweet-talking suppliers, and making sure our workers got paid on time. I wasn't just keeping the books, I was keeping the whole company afloat. But in that mahogany-paneled office, surrounded by my family's smug faces, none of that seemed to matter. To them, I was just daddy's little princess with her dollhouse collection. My Aunt Patricia even chimed in, dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue, saying, "At least Sebastian understands business." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Sebastian? The guy who couldn't tell a 2x4 from a steel beam? Yeah, right. Growing up as the youngest in the Wells family wasn't easy. My dad, Thomas Wells, was a larger-than-life figure, a bear of a man who built Timber Brewing from nothing but a beat-up truck and a toolbox. My mom, Caroline, died when I was 12, leaving me to navigate a world of construction sites and boardroom egos without her. Sebastian, 5 years older and the golden boy, was always the star of the show. He was the high school football hero, dated the homecoming queen, and coasted through business school with grades everyone pretended were stellar. Me? I was the kid tagging along to job sites, learning the difference between types of concrete and why a solid foundation matters more than a shiny facade. Dad used to say, "Anna's got a good head for numbers," like it was some cute trick, not the skill that kept his company running. While Sebastian was backpacking through Europe after college, I was the one who stepped up. When our biggest client nearly walked away from $1 million contract, I was the one who saved it. When we almost lost key employees to a competitor, I restructured our benefits to keep them. I learned to read blueprints, negotiate with union reps, and sought safety issues on a job site in minutes. Sebastian? He visited 2 construction sites in his life and whined about getting his shoes dirty both times. But at every family gathering, Dad would say, "Sebastian will take over when I retire," and everyone nodded like it was gospel. To them, he had the Wells leadership gene. To me, it was just laziness wrapped in charm. I kept my head down, solving problems, managing crises, building relationships with clients and subcontractors. I told myself that one day my work would be seen. That day in the lawyer's office, I wasn't so sure. Sebastian was still basking in the family's approval, saying, "Anna can keep playing with her toys while I handle the real responsibilities." I wanted to scream, but I'd learned long ago that arguing with my family was like reasoning with a pack of wolves. So I sat there, hands folded, face blank, waiting. Then Mr. Harrison, our family lawyer, cleared his throat. He was this kind old guy with eyes that seemed to know more than he let on. "Actually," he said, his voice slicing through their laughter, "the company was never in his name." The room went dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning hum. Sebastian's smug grin vanished, and I felt something warm and dangerous spark in my chest. After years of being dismissed, overlooked, treated like the family disappointment, I knew something big was coming. Let's rewind a bit. 3 months before that meeting, I was holding Dad's hand in a hospital room. He was fading fast, and Sebastian was off at some conference in Miami, probably more margaritas than meetings. I handled the funeral plans, the bills, everything. In one of his lucid moments, Dad whispered, "You've been my right hand all these years, Anna. You understand this business better than anyone." I brushed it off, told him not to worry about work, but he kept glancing at his briefcase in the corner, the one he never let out of his sight. "Anna," he said, his voice barely audible, "the dolls, your grandmother's collection, it's not just about sentiment." I thought he was talking about their emotional value. Grandma's antique dolls, some from the 1800s, were family heirlooms. I'd always found them a bit creepy, but I knew they were special. Now, in that lawyer's office, I was starting to wonder if there was more to his words. Sebastian's voice cracked as he demanded, "What do you mean it was never in his name?" Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses and pulled out a thick folder. "Your father transferred ownership of Timber Brewing to Anna 5 years ago. She's been the legal owner since then, though the transition was kept confidential at Mr. Wells's request." My heart slammed against my ribs, but I kept my face neutral. 5 years ago, I was managing the biggest contract in our company's history, while Sebastian was exploring his spiritual side in Thailand. The family stared, their earlier laughter replaced by confusion. Sebastian's face went pale, and for the first time, I saw something like respect, or maybe fear, in his eyes. "That's impossible," he stammered. "I'm his son. I'm supposed to inherit the business." Mr. Harrison stayed calm. "The will pertains to personal assets, the house, investments, heirlooms. The business has belonged to Anna since 2019. I let myself smile just a little. Sebastian called me just the bookkeeper, his voice dripping with desperation. Those words hit like a punch, but instead of anger, I felt something cold and sharp settle in me. After 10 years of being dismissed, the truth was finally out. Mr. Harrison held up a document thick enough to knock someone out. "Ms. Wells has been the sole owner and operator of Timber Brewing since September 15th, 2019. Your father made this transfer to protect the business from creditors and ensure continuity under experience management." Those words felt like a victory lap. I'd spent years listening to Sebastian talk over me in meetings, take credit for my projects, and mansplain business concepts I'd mastered while he was still learning to balance a checkbook. But I went to business school, He protested, as if his 2.8 GPA from Portland State trumped my decade of real-world experience. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. In a program you took 5 years to finish because you kept taking semesters off to find yourself, I said, my voice steady. The family gaped at me like I'd grown wings. Aunt Patricia's mouth fell open and my cousin Jake dropped his coffee cup. It hit the floor with a clatter, but nobody moved. My stepmother Diane snapped, "That's no way to talk to your brother." I stood up, smoothing my dress. "You're right," I said. "I should use his proper title. Sebastian, as the owner of Timber Brewing, I want to formally thank you for your years of minimal contribution to our success." The room froze. Sebastian's hands were shaking, and I could see the golden boy facade cracking. Mr. Harrison continued, detailing how I'd assumed all business debts and obligations, growing the company's value by 40% in 5 years. Sebastian made a choking sound, his face turning green. That growth wasn't luck. It was 18-hour days, strategic risks, and countless nights worrying about payroll. Then came the personal estate. Sebastian got the family house, but with a $300,000 mortgage. His investments were depleted from funding his jet-setting lifestyle. And me? I got the dolls. Sebastian laughed, a bitter bark. "See, Anna gets the dolls. At least some things make sense." But I remembered Dad's words about the dolls not being just sentimental. "Mr. Harrison," I said, "could you elaborate on the appraisals?" He smiled, a glint in his eye. "Your grandmother's collection of 47 pieces, including rare Jumo dolls from the 1870s and Madame Alexander collectibles, was appraised last year at $512,000. The room went silent again. Sebastian's laughter died, and he stared at me like I'd just checkmated him. $500,000 for dolls? Yeah, because I'd spent years learning their history, their craftsmanship, their value, while he mocked them as creepy toys. Sebastian tried one last time. "This can't be legal." Anna tricked him somehow. I stood again, pulling out my own folder. 5 years of financial records, client testimonials, proof of every decision I'd made. "5 years ago," I said, "while you were in Thailand, I was saving the Patterson Heights project, a $20 million contract. I worked with city planners, zoning committees, and resolved a lawsuit that could have bankrupted us." Mr. Harrison nodded. "Your father faced personal liability that could have taken the house. He transferred the business to Anna to protect it." I looked at Diane. "He didn't tell you because he knew you'd react like this, shocked that I could run anything more complicated than a lemonade stand." Sebastian's voice was a whisper. "So what happens now?" I met his eyes. "Now you figure out how to make your own way, just like I did." I gathered my papers and walked out, head high. In the hallway, Sebastian called after me, his voice desperate. "We need to talk about this." I turned, seeing his wrinkled suit, his disheveled hair. "What's there to talk about?" I said. "How you never asked about my work? How you assumed you deserved everything? I would have worked with you, Sebastian, if you'd ever shown me an ounce of respect, but you didn't." The elevator doors closed, and I left him standing alone, surrounded by family, who now looked at him with the pity they once saved for me. 3 weeks later, I was in my new office at Timber Brewing, my nameplate reading owner and CEO. I was reviewing plans for a sustainable housing project I'd designed, one that would soon be featured in the Portland Business Journal. My assistant buzzed in. "Sebastian Wells is here. He says he's your brother." I looked out my window at the construction site, my vision coming to life. "Send him in," I said. He walked in, looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Nice office," he muttered, eyeing my awards and certificates. Then quietly, "Anna, I need a job." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "We're not hiring." Sebastian's life fell apart fast. Portland's business community buzzed about how he'd expected to inherit a company his sister had been running. His lack of experience became a liability, and the house became a financial anchor. Within 6 months, he was working as a car salesman, living in a cramped apartment, watching from afar as I expanded Timber Brewing. As I signed a contract for our 4th major project, I realized Sebastian's mockery had made me stronger. His dismissal forced me to document every win, prove every point, and build an airtight case for my leadership. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people see you were in control all along.